All right. Shalom Alechem Rabotai. Welcome to our Wednesday class, Yalkut Yosef. Erev Tisha B'Av, Tafshin Pei Vav. We are finishing up the topic of Muktzeh, and Be'ezrat Hashem, hopefully we'll also dive into trapping a little bit today. As I said in our chat, talking about trapping different animals, if they bother you or not. Let's see what's going to be over there. Just to finish off where we ended last time, but to begin where we finished off last time, we spoke about something called a basis. A basis means a base. You could have a phone, it could be a basis. It could be a base to something or a drawer. What is it a base to? If I put muktzeh in the drawer, then when I'm opening and closing the drawer on Shabbat, it's called basis ladavar asu. It's a base to something that is forbidden. Right? That's the idea. Now we're going to learn. Obviously, we learned when you're allowed to use that drawer, when not. If there's also something inside of it that is not muktzeh, oh, William, ברוכים השבים, we missed you, shalom aleichem.
Baruch Hashem. Nice to be back. Thank you.
All right. So we're talking about muktzeh and a drawer that we open and close that just has muktzeh in it. It would be a problem because it's a base for something that is forbidden. Basis ladavar asu. However, we learned that if there's something also that is mutar in that drawer, for example, a key or something like that, then I'm opening it because it's a base to something that is forbidden, but also for something that is not forbidden. There's a machloket between the poskim whether do we need one to be more important than the other. For example, if I have $1,000 but I have a key, maybe one would say, okay, the muktzeh is more important than the key, then maybe you're not allowed to open the drawer. Halacha lemaaseh, we go by what do I need at that moment? What's more important to me now? On Shabbat, I can't use the $1,000, but the key I can use. I need it to open something, and therefore we are matir to use basis ladavar mutar ladavar asur. Now, according to the base of what we just said right now, there is a concept called mevatel kli meheichano. What does that mean? You have a kli. We're sitting on the Shabbat table and someone decide to peel his egg or someone decide to peel the nuts. I'm talking about pistachios where you can't really use those peels for nothing. And he takes an empty plate, which until a moment ago was not muktzeh at all. It was a perfect plate that I could use. And he put all those klipot, all those pits, or all those peels of the egg into that plate. What happens in that moment? Halacha says these peels are muktzeh. We are not allowed to move them. We learned, of course, that if they bother you, if they disgust you, then you're allowed to move them for a different reason, because they're bothering you. But on their own, if they're not bothering you, a peel of an egg on Shabbat is considered muktzeh. A peel of a pistachio is considered muktzeh. We can use it because we can move it if we're bothered by it, but generally it's muktzeh. So he says if you have a plate that is perfectly usable, and you take and put the muktzeh inside the plate, you put the peels of the egg inside that plate, what did you do now? You took a kli and you were mevatel the kli. You made the kli kind of like a base to something that is forbidden, and now you can't use it anymore. So just like in the drawer, what is our solution? To have something that you are allowed to move in the drawer in order to open and close the drawer, same thing we do with the plate. So says the halacha, if you know that you're about to put your peels of your egg or whatever it is in an empty plate on Shabbat, don't let it be empty. First, put a little piece of a tomato, a little potato, something small, but as long as it's worthy that that thing is not muktzeh, by doing that, you are not canceling this whole keli that used to be allowed and now it becomes muktzeh because of you. Halacha lemaseh, even if I forgot to put something that, let's call it kosher, before I put all the peels in that plate, and I want to move that plate, I can also do it b'diavad. I can come now and put I don't know, a tomato in there or something like that, and then lift the plate and move it. But if I didn't, I'm really not supposed to move that plate anymore, unless, as we said before, it is bothering me in a way that it is dirty and it's disgusting my table. But we're not opening that door. We're just talking about the kli that was just like the drawer, a kosher kli until now. Once you put the muktzeh in it, just to explain, when I take an egg with a peel, of course the peel is not a muktzeh. As long as it's in my hand, it's not muktzeh. But once I removed it from my hand into something, then it gets the din of the muktzeh. But I'm not saying you're not allowed to peel. Of course you're allowed to peel. Just once you remove it from your hand, as long as it's in your hand, you could even take it all the way to the garbage and throw it out. That would be ideal. But if you're not doing that, you're sitting on a table and you want to put it in a plate, first put a kosher item in that plate and then put the peels in it. And if you forgot and you want to move the plate, better you add a kosher item even b'diavad, even after, so that you can move that plate. So that was the din of mevatel kli, canceling a kli mechano, from being able. The kli was able to be moved, and now we are not able to move it anymore. One more muktzeh talks about, Rav Yitzchak Yosef talks about, is muktzeh mechamat mitzvah. There's a muktzeh of something that is only meant for a mitzvah. The example that he brings is the decorations of the sukkah. I hung in the sukkah kishutim. Those are mitzvot. I'm beautifying, I'm making my sukkah more beautiful. But if there's, for example, food, some people hang pomegranates on their ceiling of the sukkah. It's muktzeh. You could only take it after Sukkot. You can't use it. Why? Mechamat mitzvah. It was put over there as a mitzvah, even though it's edible, but it had a use of a mitzvah, and therefore you cannot touch it until after the Chag would be over. Right. Now, a few side halachot that the Yalkut Yosef brings. He says there's something called bakbuk maim chamim. It's like, I don't know what you call it in English, but it's basically a bag of boiling hot water that you close, and a lot of women sometimes they have pain or whatever, or people have back pain. They take that hard bag of water, let's call it, and they put it on themselves so that they feel better. Am I allowed to use this on Shabbat or not? That's the topic that we're talking about right now. So, can anybody over here tell me why would I think that that's forbidden? Hot water feels good. Why not use it on Shabbat? Where's the problem? What's the potential problem over there? Anybody have an idea?
How you make the hot water? When you make
Okay.
the hot water?
Steve is saying how you get the hot water. Let's say that I took it from the samovar and the hot water is perfectly kosher.
Uh,
I opened, I filled it. So with the hot water, we have no problem. Good point, but now we're good with the hot water. We learned that there's something called refuah b'Shabbat. Refuah is healing on Shabbat. And we learned that you're not allowed to do actions that are like refuah on Shabbat. Taking certain medicines, doing something that heal you on Shabbat. We gave the example of working out, sweating. In the past, the sweat was a form of healing. Why can't you do that? So we learned it's a gzera, it's a decree of Chachamim, that they said that if we allow you to do actions that heal you, that are kosher, because I'm taking water from the samovar, as Steve is saying, we're not doing anything wrong. However, if I allow you to heal yourself in one way, you may come to heal yourself in a different way that is asul from the Torah. What is that? Going and chopping herbs from your garden and making a potion that's going to make you feel better. The chopping on Shabbat would be asul ma Torah. Because we are scared that that's going to happen, asul siyag la Torah, like we learn at Pirkei Avot, we make a fence from here, and even stuff that are allowed. But since they heal you, or like sweating, running, since they heal you, then you may come to do a bigger action of healing that is forbidden from the Torah, and that would be a soul. So that's why potentially that hot bag of water, I don't know if any of you know, have a name for it, but in Hebrew we call it sak mayim chamim. That hot bag of water, we think that we may not be able to use it on Shabbat. But the Yalkut Yosef is mechadesh that really, if someone has pain and wants to fill it up with hot water and put it on himself, even though he's screwing and unscrewing, all the actions that are involved in this, he says there is no problem and you could use it on Shabbat. And he says, why? Because it's not proven medically that this thing actually heals. So people say it heals, but is it true? We don't really know. And because it's not proven medically, we allow you to use it. The only problem is with stuff that are medically proven. All right. Another topic that he brings is ripping up a bag. I want to open a bamba bag because I want to give my kids bamba on Shabbat or snacks. Can I rip it open on Shabbat? So what's the problem? Obviously, I'm tearing, I'm ripping, and if the bag until now was a kli, maybe I'm destroying the kli. But halacha lemaaseh, he says we learn from a case called chotlot shel tmarim. What's chotlot shel tmarim? This is a famous case in the Gemara that many important halachot are learned from. So it's worth to give a minute to give attention to this Gemara. We're at the Shulchan Aruch, I guess, elaborates a little bit more and talks about it. The Shulchan Aruch says that in the past, how did they preserve fruits? If the dates, for example, were not ready, then they would take the palm leaves, the big palm leaves, and they would tie them in a way and wrap them around and put the dates inside. And it almost was like a sealed item with the dates inside. And I guess it would help it, cook more. And whenever they wanted to eat the dates, they would break open that thing. So the question is, can I break open that thing on Shabbat to take my dates out? Because it looks like a kli, it's like a vessel, it's almost like a pitcher, like a barrel. It was a big thing that they put the fruits inside. Is it considered that we are breaking a kli on Shabbat? Are we destroying something? Or perhaps if I make a nice cut into that barrel to pour out the fruits, am I creating a kli because now I made a nice petach, a nice opening to remove the fruits? In all these cases, says the Shulchan Aruch, no, that would be allowed. I guess because Rav Budbul, the son-in-law of Rav Ovadia, explains because they are there to protect the fruits. So really, we learn from here that anything that is wrapping the food and is not going to be used later on. This was a temporary barrel. It's not a real barrel that's going to be reused and filled up with wine. It's going to go to the garbage. It's called chavit mustaki. It's the Chachamim called like a bad barrel. It's not going to be reused. Therefore, you're allowed to cut it open on Shabbat. You're allowed to even make a nice hole from it because you're never going to reuse it. And from here, we learn that anytime something is wrapping food, then it gets the same din as the food, which means when I see a bamba inside a bamba bag on Shabbat, maybe I'm not going to be able to rip the bag. You're not allowed to tear. But the answer is no. The cover of the food gets the din of the food. So really, I'm not tearing a bamba bag. I'm opening food right now. And that's why that would be allowed. And Chachamim extend this also. It doesn't just end with food, but also food-related stuff like opening a plastic bag that has cups in it or has tissues in it. I'm going to say I can't open the bag because, no, you want to use it on Shabbat. You'd be allowed to tear open that bag and take out the tissues or the cups or whatever it is. All right, we spoke about using a shoe on Shabbat with a new lace in the past, so I'm not going to repeat this example, but one more example that he brings here is something called building a tent, biniyat ohel b'Shabbat. All right? And the problem basically with that is that you're not allowed to create, not the sides of the tent, but a roof. You're not allowed to create on Shabbat a roof that is there to protect you from the sun or from the rain, right? So, um, he gives the example of a talit. We have a custom that in Simchat Torah, everybody takes a talit and puts it on top of everybody. So he says, really, it should have been forbidden to do that. Why? Because we are creating a cover. It's like a tent. You're building a home. You're creating a cover that did not exist before. So am I allowed to do that on Shabbat? He said, really, it should have been asur, but because the Jewish custom is to do it on Simchat Torah, he says, Hanach lahem b'Yisrael. Let us do it. See how powerful the custom is. Even though he doesn't understand why halachically it's allowed, but if it's the custom, we keep on doing it. But if you're playing with your kids on Shabbat, and a lot of the time kids take 4 chairs, and now they want to take a blanket and spread it on top so that they could go inside their tent. Okay, if they're kids at a young age, you don't have to stop them, but I'm talking about you as a grown-up. If you want to help them build this tent, know that putting a top on side would be a problem. You're not really allowed to do that. The sides are okay, but building a cover from on top would be a problem. Same thing with your baby. Your baby is laying in a crib, and now it's sunny, and the sun is coming on him, and you say, I want to protect him. Let me put a blanket on top of the crib or a thin sheet so that he'll be protected from the sun. Halacha lemaaseh, it will be forbidden. Move the crib, take the baby out. But you cannot create a cover. It's like building a home. Once you put a rooftop on top, that would be a problem. And last halacha that is very relevant to those of us that have baby strollers, some of you with your kids, some of you will be shalasun with your grandkids, Bezrat Hashem. When you have a baby stroller and it's sunny out and you want to put the roof on top so that your child won't get the sun in his face. So we just learned that it's a problem to kind of put a cover on your child on Shabbat. However, halacha says that since once you have a little bit of a roof, you're allowed to extend it. It's called a tefach. A tefach is like about a little bit more than 3 inches. So if you have a roof that already existed 3 inches, then you're allowed to spread that one on Shabbat because it already existed. Once it's 3 inches, it's already considered a meaningful roof and you can extend it. He says that halacha could also work with the stroller. Since the stroller top is already there, it's kind of covering 3 inches, then I would be allowed to spread it more. He says, however, it's best if you can make sure that you have that tefach before Shabbat, meaning if you're going to use the stroller on Shabbat, maybe make sure it's not fully tight, a little bit open. You have what to rely on even if you didn't do that, but that's the idea. We're learning a concept here that once a tefach has been opened, 3.5 inches, then you're allowed to extend. But if not, you're not allowed to put it. And there's a halacha that a lot of people don't know, wearing a hat on Shabbat. Wearing a hat on Shabbat, if it's a hat that doesn't have a long rim, that's not a problem. But if the rim, if the front of the cap, it's like a baseball cap, if it's more than 3 inches, which I believe most baseball caps are more than 3 inches, if the reason you are putting it on you is to protect you from the sun or from the rain, meaning you want to create a roof, a cover for yourself, that would be allowed to wear that hat on Shabbat because you're taking it outside. Now you're protecting yourself from the sun. Now you're going to ask me, we see all the rabbis wearing the big hats on Shabbat. Rabbi Chaim, he's doing something that's asur. His is also 3 inches more. He says, no, if it's part of his regular outfit, this is how he conducts himself, this is part of being a Rav, he dresses this way, then that will be allowed. But if it's clear that you're putting it on to protect yourself from the sun, it's like as if you are building a rooftop on you, and that would be forbidden.
With the umbrella, if you leave it open,
No, the umbrella would be the same problem.
be,
Although,
yeah, if it's
although,
because of maritime, that's the problem. Because
so,
if you leave it open 3 inches or whatever, it's the
okay,
same idea.
so I'll tell you something that this topic of umbrella is a big topic in halakha because really the poskim did not find so much of a reason to forbid it, especially if you leave it open before Shabbat, because you're just using something that already existed. But still, they say, even though it doesn't seem like there's a reason to forbid it, but it could lead to a lot of problems. Lachen halacha lemaaseh, we follow the minhag that we don't do it. If you're asking me dry halacha, what's the problem with it? I don't know anyone that can tell you what the halacha is with it, what the problem with it is. However, halacha lemaaseh, we don't use an umbrella because, as you said, marit ain, people could learn, oh, maybe if I could use this, I could use greater things. Whatever it is, we don't allow it. So bottom line, yeah, you cannot use an umbrella on Shabbat. All right, so if we don't have any questions about this, we're going to dive into the halachot of tzeidah, of hunting on Shabbat, Siman Shin Tet Zayin, 316 in the Shulchan Aruch is the number of the Siman. All right, so a general rule. We're going to see that there are animals that by trapping them or hunting them on Shabbat, some are going to be asurim from the Torah, and some are only forbidden from Chachamim. What's going to be the difference? When is it forbidden from Chachamim? When is it forbidden from the Torah? And soon we'll see why, and it does make a difference. We'll see. But generally, the rule is like this. If this type of animal is an animal that people are used to trapping or used to hunting, then it's going to be a sul from the Torah. For example, you want to trap your sheep in the gate so that you could slaughter them later, okay? Or you want to trap a bee to collect honey from it. So if you do, a bee is flying around you on Shabbat and you want to trap it now, then it's going to be a Isur Torah because this is an animal that people have a reason to trap. Or even a snake, they trap it because later on they want to kill it and take their skin. But if I'm trapping right now a mosquito or a fly, this is not a type of item that people trap. You put a mouse trap and you cut the mouse, right? So I don't need it. I have no use for this thing. It's not really something. It's called in the halacha en bemino nitzod. It's not the item that is usually hunted or trapped. And those will all be the Rabbanah. So when is it from the Oraita? If it's a typical thing that there's a reason for us to trap it or to catch it on Shabbat. Right. So the famous case that is brought down in the Halacha is what happens if you live in an area. Now, for us, this may not be common. We don't have deers walking around Great Neck. I see a lot of bunnies here, but not deers. But imagine back and then where they live, they had deers. And what happens if a
I
deer...
actually saw a couple of deers in Green.
You saw? Baruch Hashem. So we're living the Halacha live right now. Halacha says, what happens if a deer all of a sudden walks into your front door? It was left a little open, and now it's inside the house. Now, Johnny wants to go to Kanisa because he doesn't want to be late to Minyan, so he wants to leave the house. But he doesn't want to leave the door open to let the deer leave, because if he leaves his door open, who knows what else may come in, or maybe the kids can come out. So he wants to close the door after him. Would he be allowed to close the door after him? Or is this considered an action of trapping? Because by closing the door, now you're trapping the deer. It cannot go anywhere. You trapped an animal. So what's the first question that we have to ask ourselves? What type of isur is this going to be? Is this going to be a isur from Chachamim or from the Torah? What do you guys think? A trapping of a deer. Is that an animal that people hunt, people trap? Answer. The answer is yes. No. Why? Deer, I trap it, I catch it because I want to, you can slaughter it, you could eat it. The animals that are going to be from the Rabbanan is the animal that I have no use for. Maybe a little mouse, a mosquito. I don't need to trap it. I just don't want it to bother me. But these animals, yeah, you pay money in the zoo to go pet a deer, right? So theoretically, it would be a Isur Torah. However, when Johnny is closing the door right now, Johnny, forgive me, I'm using you as an example, but it works well. When Johnny now is closing the door, does he have intention to trap the animal? That's not his intention. He just wants to leave the house. This reminds us of a very important topic that we've learned in the past called psik resha de lo nichale. That the sin is going to happen, psik resha, like when you chop off the head of a chicken because you want to play with it as a ball. I don't want to kill the animal. I just want to play with his head as a ball. Yeah, but by taking off his head, you have no choice. It's for sure going to happen. When we close this door on Shabbat, no matter what, even if we don't care to hunt the deer, it's going to happen. So it's psik resha, it's for sure going to happen, but lo nichale, but I have no intention for it to happen. When it would be allowed and when would it be forbidden? So we learned, if it's a isul from the Torah, even though I don't care for it, it's asul. But if it's going to be a isul from Chachamim, then it would be allowed. The classic example that we gave is if you left a LED light inside the fridge, and now you want to open the fridge on Shabbat. For sure, when you open the fridge, the light will turn on. But since most poskim hold that LED lights are derabanan, they're from Chachamim, so I'm opening the fridge. Do I care about the light? I'm not opening the fridge for the light. I want to take food out. So it's for sure going to happen. It's psik resha, aval lo nichale, but I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not looking for it. I'm not searching after the light. Is the light derabanan or deoraita? If it's derabanan, if it's from Chachamim, then I'm allowed to. And that's how we said halacha lemaaseh. For Sfaradim, Ashkenazim, they're more strict on that. They don't allow. But for us, Sfaradim, if I forgot the light on in the fridge, assuming that it's a LED light, not the old lights that are considered like fire, then I can open
Wait,
it.
about the light, only if you forgot to close it. I mean, meaning you have to try to close it before Shabbat.
Yeah, you're right. Good point. We're only talking about b'diavad, when I forgot before
B'diavad.
Shabbat. Obviously, everything before Shabbat should be done, and Rav Ovadia says this. But if you're in a situation where you didn't do it, by the way, when you open a fridge, don't think that only the light is the problem. The new fridges have so many sensors that by opening it, there's magnets, there's sensors, there's screens, there's turning off, turning on. So don't think that if you solve the light problem, open it freely. No, you should try to make sure you put it on Shabbat mode before Shabbat, because not only the light turns on, there are many other things as well. Having said that, when we go back to our halacha, psik resha delo nichale, which means something is going to happen for sure, but I don't care for it. If it's from the Rabbanan, like the LED light, it's mutar. But this deer, if I'm trapping it, what did we just learn? Is it from the Rabbanan or the Oraita? It's from the Oraita, it's from the Torah. And therefore, you should not close the door on Shabbat if a deer, so Johnny, if the deer ever comes into your house and you want to leave, you got to find a way to get it out before you leave, or else it's a
Oh,
problem
wow.
trapping. Yeah, so be aware from the deer. Some wanted to say that even though trapping is midoraita when it comes to a deer, but some wanted to say that this is not a direct trapping. It's not like I'm trapping it in a tiny room and I can grab it right away. It's a big house. So maybe it's not a real trapping, it's only a grama. It's only I'm closing the door and I'm creating a secondary type of trapping. And maybe that would be the Ramadan, but halakha l'maaseh, we don't follow this opinion. We follow the opinion that if it's an animal that is isur deoraita to trap, you're not going to be allowed to close the door if you left it open and it came in. However, and this is a very relevant thing, when are we allowed to do these actions of trapping or perhaps even killing? Are we allowed to kill certain animals on Shabbat? Is there any animal you can imagine on Shabbat that I would be allowed to kill? How does that work exactly? So Chachamim say that if you see an animal that is dangerous enough to kill, for example, like a lion or like a poisonous snake. Not every snake can kill, right? But a poisonous snake or some sort of animal that you have a suspect that this animal is able to kill, then I'm allowed to kill this animal. I'm mamash allowed to kill it even though I'm taking out a neshama on Shabbat, but it's like a pikuach nefesh. This is an animal that is able to kill. It doesn't matter if it's far away or if it's knocking on my door trying to get me. Once it's able to kill and I see it, I would be allowed to kill it. Because even if it's not running after me, maybe it's going to go run after someone else, you'll be allowed to kill it. However, if this is a type of animal that is not able to kill, there will still be a time where I would be allowed to kill it. And when is that? If it's running after me. Okay? I don't know, you want to say a cat, for example, or something like that can't really kill. But if it's running after me and trying to bite me and scratch me, to defend myself, I would be allowed to kill it as well. But if it's just sitting over there, obviously I cannot, because it's not able to kill, I'm not allowed to do anything to it. He also says
Does
here
he,
that, yeah, b'chavod.
sorry, does that include all mosquitoes?
Oh, so we're gonna talk about mosquitoes. We're gonna talk
Oh,
about fleas right now. Yeah, very good and relevant question. This is probably the most relevant to us, where we have mosquitoes and they bother us on Shabbat. So, bottom line, what did we learn right now? We learned that mosquitoes uh, aren't considered an animal that is able to kill you. All right. And though you may say, maybe it's running after me, but a mosquito is not considered that it's running after you. If it's on you and it's biting you, still, you would not be allowed to kill it because it's not able to kill you. It's not able to do something that meaningful to you. All right. Even a flea, like someone has a dog and the dog has fleas, and now it went on someone's flesh. Even if it's biting you, says the Yalkut Yosef, while it's biting you, you can't. Sometimes it's a reaction. You go like that, and you end up squishing it. No, you are not allowed to kill it. What can you do against mosquitoes or against stuff like this? So he says that there's a special spray, and we all know in Hebrew we call it K300. I don't know what you call it, K300. I don't know if it's called the same over here, but it's a special spray against mosquitoes or whatever it is. You are allowed to spray it to get them to leave, but you cannot spray on them directly, because by spraying on them directly, you're killing them. So he says, what do? You spray in their area, and one area, two area, you kind of block areas in the air until finally, you're able to let them leave. But you cannot spray on them directly because they will die. All right. And you have to leave an open window also so that you're not for sure killing them. You're really leaving them an option to survive and leave. So that's the right thing to do, to spray around them, and hopefully that will make them leave. May not be so pleasant, but Baruch Hashem, we're Jews, we follow halakha. What happens, talk about the mosquitoes and getting bitten, what happens if a thorn went into someone's flesh on Shabbat? Can I take it out of my skin? How are we doing with time? A couple of minutes. Can I take the thorn out? So right away, what's the first question we ask ourselves? What's the chashash? What are we concerned? What may happen by taking out a thorn? Anybody know what would be the problem by taking out a thorn?
Is it gonna kill me? God forbid.
No, but
Bleeding.
why
Oh,
should I be allowed to not allowed to
oh,
take it out? I want to take it out now.
Bleeding on Shabbat.
Bleeding, chazak baruch. So there's a halacha that you're not supposed to do a chabura. You're not allowed to make someone or something bleed on Shabbat, and it's mamash isu. All right. So he says that you're allowed to take out that thorn, but you should do it in a way that you will not bleed. All right. And as long, he says, as it's not 100% that you're going to bleed by taking it out, then it's allowed. If it's 100% going to bleed, then it's psik resha, telo nichale. I don't care for the blood, but it's for sure going to happen. And it's deoraita. Because bleeding chabala, making someone bleed or you bleed on Shabbat, is a isur deoraita. But that's when it's psik resha, when it's for sure. But when I don't know if I'm going to bleed or not, and it's bothering me, I would be allowed to take it out. By the way, some wanted to say that maybe it's a problem to brush your teeth on Shabbat. Because when I brush my teeth, a lot of people, they bleed when they brush their teeth on Shabbat. Halacha lema'aseh, it's mutar. You're allowed to brush your teeth even if you may bleed. The only time we tell a person you are not allowed to brush your teeth on Shabbat is when 100% he bleeds. Every single time he brushes his teeth, he bleeds. In that situation, it's already for sure he's for sure going to make it happen even though he doesn't care for it, and that will be forbidden as well. But most of us don't bleed every time we brush, and therefore that would be allowed. All right, next topic is already melechet kosher, tying and untying on Shabbat, so I think we should end over here with the halachot of trapping. Hazak ubaruch abotai, great seeing you. For those
Thank
of you
you.
that are around tomorrow at 5:30, we'll be giving Bezrat Hashem a shiur in Sharei Rachamim on Tisha B'Av. Whoever works out for you, I'd love to see you there. Yalla,
thank
Chazak
you.
Baruch.
Baruch.
Best.
How's it?
Shalom,
Thank you.
shalom. Shalom.